and welcome to the Virtual American Spaces program we have for you today. We are going to be talking to one of our virtual student foreign service interns about the University of Chicago, where she studies. This is a really great platform for you to subscribe to, like, and follow our page. If you're interested in American culture, how to study in the United States, more about our exchange programs, and other really interesting topics. We have other programs every week, and next week, at the same time, we will be talking to our other virtual student foreign service intern about diversity in the United States. What is the Virtual Student Foreign Service Program? This is a really great way for students in the United States to understand how an embassy works, and they can do it from their home campuses, where Melissa Rodriguez, our special guest today, is joining us from. So Melissa is at University of Chicago. Hi there, Melissa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us today and doing this very great presentation. The University of Chicago is one of the 5,000 institutions that we have in the United States. And we would really love to hear your thoughts, because every year there are more and more Azerbaijani students going to study in the United States. This past year, we had an increase of 26% of Azerbaijanis who went. So we know that Azerbaijanis are interested, and that they might not know much about University of Chicago, how much it costs, what is their specialty, what is life like on campus. So it's excellent that you're here with us today. Melissa, you probably know a little bit about Baku, and I'm not sure if Azerbaijanis know much about Chicago, where you are right now. So anyone in the audience can tell us something that they know about Chicago, maybe something that they're aware of that is similar to Baku. Please share in the comments. I will start. I think Chicago is called the Windy City, right? And so is Baku. Baku is very, very windy. One day you'll have, I don't know in kilometers, but 30-mile-per-hour winds, and you've got to hang on to all your belongings, or else you'll fly away as well. But Melissa, do you know the story about why Chicago is called the Windy City?
I honestly don't know. I feel like it's very true to Chicago itself. Chicago is an extremely windy city, especially honestly at all times of the year. So that's probably why. It's a very true statement. So it's a lot windier than most cities in the United States.
Right. So it's next to one of the Great Lakes, and maybe that's why, like, Baku is right on the Caspian. It could be windy, but what I learned is that with the Windy City nickname actually came from a reporter in 1893. So this journalist characterized the city's politicians as being full of hot air. So the Windy City nickname comes also from that. One other thing that Chicago is known for, and I am a personal fan, is deep dish pizza. So without making people too hungry and leaving the presentation, Melissa, could you tell us a little bit about the culinary part of Chicago?
Yeah, of course. So Chicago has a very diverse food scene. We have obviously our typical dishes that you'll find that are very specific to Chicago, like deep dish and like a Chicago style hot dog, which are both foods that I absolutely love. And a lot of people come visit Chicago to specifically try these foods. But we have a lot of different types of foods here in the city. We have Latin American cuisine, African cuisine, and food from all over the world, which is one of the main reasons why I love Chicago. You get to try almost everything.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you'll be talking about the Freshman 15 in your presentation. Seems like Chicago is a good place for that. I think we should get started on the presentation. I would love to hear more about your university and your experience. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Salman.
Awesome.
So I can definitely go ahead and get started on presentation. I'll go ahead and get started talking about where the University of Chicago is located. So the University of Chicago is located in Chicago, Illinois. And for those of you who may not be familiar with where Chicago is located in the Midwest region of the United States. So that means it's essentially between LA and New York, so right in the middle of the two coasts. Chicago is made up of 77 neighborhoods, and UChicago is located in the city's south side, Hyde Park neighborhood. And you can see that where I circled on the right-hand side of the Chicago map. Hyde Park is an extremely lively neighborhood best known for its beautiful residential areas, green spaces, and cultural events. Downtown Chicago is also very accessible to students who are at the University of Chicago, whether that's they want to take the train, the city bus, or a UChicago shuttle. And Chicago itself is a very large city. Students definitely find something to do probably every single weekend, whether it's going to the nearby Chinatown in Chicago. I know a lot of students enjoy the food and just hanging out in general. So this is a picture of our campus. This is our campus map. And so here on our campus map, you'll find a lot of the common lecture halls that students will go to as a part of their classes every single day. You can also see our main quad and a lot of the different coffee shops that students go just to get a quick coffee or to sit with some friends or maybe to have a conversation with someone about a topic they're interested in. And so throughout your time at UChicago, you'll definitely find yourself reaching every corner of campus, whether that's for classes or going to clubs after classes. We have a very, very beautiful campus here at UChicago, and it's definitely one of my favorite parts about being a student here. It's a very large campus, and it has some beautiful greenery. So some quick statistics about my university. The University of Chicago is ranked number 12 globally. We have a total of 7,653 undergraduate students, of which 1,100 of those students are international students. We have around 53 majors for students to pick from. Some of these majors include philosophy, creative writing, and experimental psychology. So you definitely have a very wide range of what students study here. And we also have 47 minors here at the University of Chicago for students who are hoping to also do a minor along with their major. And some of these minors include computer science, history, or even linguistics. So some of the most common majors here at the University of Chicago, starting off with economics. So economics is what I would think the University of Chicago is most known for. You won't go anywhere without finding a student who is studying economics, which is super interesting. And then following that, most students will study computer science, mathematics, biological sciences, and also political science. So to give some little information about the admissions applications, so here at the University of Chicago, students are asked to submit three essays when applying for an undergrad position here. So students are asked to submit their Common App essay, which is essentially a writing sample that you submit to any American university that you're applying to so they could get a sense of who you are. The University of Chicago also asks students to submit a Why UChicago essay. So this Why UChicago essay asks, how does the University of Chicago, as you know it now, satisfy your desire for a particular kind of learning, community, and future? Please address with some specificity your own wishes and how they relate to UChicago. So the University of Chicago, they really want to get to know you and why you want to be a student here, whether that's if there's a specific classes that you want to take here at the university, a specific club you want to be a part of, or a specific professor you want to study under is kind of what you would write about in that essay. The University of Chicago also asks you to submit a supplemental essay. So supplemental essays are very quirky and very weird, and they intend to make you think and show admissions that you can do the quirky type of thinking that University of Chicago students and the university itself is really known for. So to give an example of one of the supplemental essays here. So they come out with new supplemental prompts every single year. So an example from this year's admission cohort is exponents and square roots, pencils and erasers, beta decay, and electron capture. Name two things that undo each other and explain why both are necessary. So these are just very weird questions that ask you to think in a very, very strange way. And to give one more example from previous years, because when you submit when you're writing your Chicago supplemental essay, you don't have to pick from the ones that they have for that specific admission year. You can pick prompts from previous years. And so one of the previous year prompts is you're on a voyage in the 13th century, sailing across the tempestuous seas. What if suddenly you fell off the edge of the earth? And so these are definitely strange questions that you have to think really hard about and answer in a really interesting way, which is what really catches the eye of the admissions here at UChicago. And then you can always have the option to make your own question. So you don't necessarily have to answer one of the prompts that they have for that year or any of the previous year ones. I know these are definitely weird questions. And that's also one of the ways you can kind of like show who you are by making up your own question. Some more information on admissions. So the following are kind of like the range of scores that most students who apply with are admitted to with the University of Chicago. So if you are submitting SAT scores, the average UChicago student will usually score 1560. For ACT, the average UChicago student will score a 35. And so for GPA, most students have a GPA of above a 4.0. And so just to talk a little bit about tuition here at the University of Chicago. So because the University of Chicago is a private university, our tuition is quite high. So it is around $63,000. But typically after aid, most students will pay around $22,000 a year. To give some information on international financial aid, so there are merit scholarships for international students. International students are eligible for financial aid only if they apply for funding during the admissions process. So when you are submitting your application for the University of Chicago, you have to make sure to specify that you expect that you will need financial aid throughout any of the 4 years in the University of Chicago so that you can receive that aid. All first-year applicants are automatically considered for merit scholarships, and no additional application is required for that. To recognize applicants for their outstanding academic and extracurricular achievement, demonstrated leadership, and commitment to their communities, the university will offer merit scholarships to international applicants. And this would just be a partial tuition scholarship for international students. And so one of the merit scholarships that the university offers is called the First Phoenix Scholarship. And this helps first-generation college students where they'll be awarded $20,000 worth of scholarships over 4 years as part of the First Phoenix Scholarship Program. And awards are made to students whose parents did not attain a degree for 4-year college universities. And applicants who qualify will automatically be considered, and they do not need to submit any further application materials. So just to talk a little bit more about what being a student is like here at the university, one of the most essential parts about being a student here is completing the core curriculum. So all students, no matter what you're studying, are required to do the core. And so the core is essentially the common academic program, and it's meant to challenge students at the university and set a foundation for coursework. So students are required to do 2 humanities courses, 1 arts course, and then 2 civilization studies courses. And you have to do an additional humanities, arts, or civilization. All students are required to do a math class, 2 physical science classes, 2 biological science classes, and then an additional course on top of that, and along with that 3 social sciences courses. And you have to make sure to also complete a language competency course, whether that's taking a language course here at the university, or if you are an international student and you can prove that you have a strong set of language skills in your native language, you can be exempt from this. And so kind of to look at what I've done so far for the core. So for my humanities course, I've done I chose to do Intro to World Literature. I've done one arts class so far, which is Visual Languages on Images. I haven't done my civilization studies because most students will wait to complete that, because most students will do their civilization studies course as while they're studying abroad, because that is part of what the university offers as an option for completing the core. I've done calculus and calculus 2 for math, and for my physical sciences, I've done global warming. And for my Soc, I did global society 1, 2, and 3. And my language competency, what I ended up doing for that, because I am a native Spanish speaker, I was exempt from this, but because I'm a Romance languages and literatures minor, I am consistently taking language courses, so I could have fulfilled it that way as well. To just give some course examples outside of the core, just to kind of show you the embodiment of what UChicago and kind of the mindset is here. I'll just read off some of the courses that we have. So anthropology, embodiment in the senses, anthropology, politics of technoscience in Africa. You can take an econ course, introduction to intergenerational mobility. You can take a French detective fiction course. And if you're interested in astrology, from fossils to Fermat's paradox, origin and evolution of intelligent life. So these are all just very interesting classes that you can take. This is whether it's for your major or if you're just interested in something that's being offered that quarter. These were all offered this quarter for the spring. And unfortunately, I'm not taking any of these courses, but I wish I was. And so to talk a little bit about student life. So housing. Students are assigned to one of 7 resident halls on campus, and undergraduate students are required to live on campus for their first 2 years. So because I'm currently a second year, I'm still in the residential dorms. But after your second year, you can also live in the dorms again if you'd like. But most students will move on to off-campus apartments. Each dorm has their own house communities, similar to what you kind of like see in Hogwarts in Harry Potter. And so the dorm I have pictured here, this one is called the BJ. And so these are some images of what the typical dorm in this residential hall may look like. And this is one of the houses in BJ called Vincent House. And so these are the other residential dorms that the University of Chicago has here for its students. As you can tell, a lot of these residential halls have a very wide range in kind of like what they look like and how they've been designed. A lot of these dorms, like for example, Campus North and Woodlawn and Renee, are all very modern in their style, while BJ Courts, International House, and Snell Hitchcock are a lot more in a line with kind of like the architecture that you see at the University of Chicago. And Max Fee is just a little weird because it's orange, but that's okay too. And so students here have a lot of great opportunities to become involved on campus and just through clubs. UChicago has over 400 RSOs, which are just recognized student organizations, and RSOs typically meet weekly throughout the year, and they hold events for the members and also hold workshops. And we also have more than 20 Greek organizations currently operating on campus as well, if that's something you're interested in. So some of the RSOs I have on here, this is UChicago's Model UN, Doc Films, which is a really interesting RSO. They will host film screenings for students. So we have a movie theater here on campus, and they will play movies throughout the week and on weekends. And super, super interesting. Eckert Consulting is another. If you're interested in a career in consulting, this is essentially a group of students who will help you with the recruitment process and just to learn a little bit more about consulting. And then the last one here is the African and Caribbean Association. We have a lot of student associations that relate to kind of your identity as well. So athletics, we have a really good athletics program here at the University of Chicago. So UChicago has 20 sports teams in its athletic department competing at a Division III level. The university also offers more than 75 intramural and sports club programs for students interested in participating in athletics. So if you're like, I really want to try tennis, but I'm not on the tennis team and I don't really want to be, and you kind of just want to play for fun, you could join club tennis, and it's a really great opportunity. I haven't done any intramural or club sports here at the university, but I know everyone who does them has a great time, because it's just like everyone who either does have some experience playing the sport or doesn't really, and you're just all on a team and playing against each other throughout the week, and it's a great experience. And these are some of the study spots that I think most students will go to, whether that's during the week or on the weekends. For students who like to be in the library, these first two are what are our libraries here on campus. So this is the Regenstein Library, and attached to it is the Mansueto Institute, which is essentially just like this big glass dome where students can study, and it's really cool, but it gets really cold in there, so I don't like to be in there a lot. And then right below that is our Harper Memorial Library, and that one is a lot warmer and a lot nicer to study in. And so in this middle row, we have a lot of the student run cafes. A lot of students like to study in cafes, and as you can tell, all of these kind of have a different energy, so whatever suits you the best. And then on the right, some of the collaborative spaces that we have here on campus, so you don't have to be studying alone all the time. There's a lot of really good spaces for you to work with other people, or working in a group, whether for a class also. And so just to talk a little bit about our study abroad programs here at the University of Chicago, we have faculty-led programs, language programs, and direct enrollment programs. So I know faculty-led programs, that essentially means that a professor from the University of Chicago will go to a location abroad, and then students can take their course there. So this fall, my professor for politics and policy was teaching his course here in Chicago, and this spring he's teaching it in Barcelona. And language programs, if you're really interested in learning Spanish, you can go to Barcelona and learn Spanish in Spain. And then we also have direct enrollment, which is if the university doesn't have a campus in a specific location, you can always just enroll directly through there. So I know a student was studying in England, and she had a really good experience. And so some of the international centers and campuses that the university itself has. So they have a center, the university has a center in Paris, a center in Beijing, a center in Delhi, and a campus in Hong Kong. And so another option kind of like to get into that study abroad experience is you could also do career treks with the university. So treks are career exploration experiences. And so participating students have the opportunity to expand their professional network, learn more about potential jobs and internships, and find out whether a particular career field matches their interests, skills, and values. So this past spring, the university offered career treks to Mexico City for business and entrepreneurship, to Atlanta, Georgia for healthcare, and to London for international markets. They have a very wide range of career treks that the university will offer, and these all happen during our breaks. So they will host career treks during our winter, spring, and summer breaks for students who may not be able to study abroad for any reason. And I know this past winter, I went on a career trek to Atlanta, Georgia for human rights, and it was a really great experience. And these are also funded by the university, so most students don't have to pay for their flight, for their hotel, or for any transportation that is done on that trip. So just to give a little more information on my experience of being a student at the University of Chicago, I'm currently studying global studies and public policy studies with a minor in Romance languages and literatures, which you can probably tell from my spring quarter class schedule. So most students will take between 3 and 4 classes a quarter, and people won't usually have more than 2 classes in one day, which is really nice because you'll have a lot of flexibility and a lot of time to just make sure you get your work done during the rest of the day, attend your RSOs, or just hang out with friends. I really like my classes this quarter. On Mondays, I have Italian and a research class, and then on Tuesdays I'll have international environmental policy, and then a class that I'm also auditing for the psych class, which is super interesting. And then the week just kind of has the same structure. So, but I love my classes, and even though even with 4 classes, you don't always feel too overwhelmed, and it's yeah. So I have a great schedule this quarter, and I love my classes, so everything's great. Yeah, and so some of the RSOs and campus involvement that I have been doing throughout this year. So I'm a part of International Development Society, U Chicago, the U Chicago Harm Reduction Project, and W Plus, which is a cohort within the Institute of Politics here at the university, for women and gender minorities in public service. And I've also been a Fellows Ambassador for the Institute of Politics. And next year, I'm going to be a career development ambassador with the Institute of Politics. And I think the Institute of Politics is great. You don't have to be interested in politics to do stuff with the Institute of Politics here on campus. They offer a very wide range of kind of programs for students who are just generally interested in, and that definitely goes for all the organizations here on campus. My favorite study spot is in the Regenstein Library. Lately, I really like to study at kind of like traditional desktop computer, and the 5th floor and most of the floors at that library have that, which I love to be at, and it's very quiet and very warm, and there's a lot of windows. My favorite dining hall is the Bartlett Dining Commons. I think all the dining halls are pretty good, as good as you can get with a university dining hall, but that one is definitely my favorite, and it's right by the library too. And my favorite event for the year is Summer Breeze. And Summer Breeze is kind of like an end of year concert for students right after finals, where the university will invite an artist to come perform for the university students. You can buy your ticket and then go to the concert, and it's super fun. And so thank you so much. That was all I had for my presentation. Please feel free to send in any questions in the comment section.
Live. Hello again. To those of you that might have joined during the presentation, just a refresher, welcome to our Virtual American Spaces online platform. We are talking with Melissa Rodriguez, who is an intern with the U.S. Embassy, but based virtually in Chicago, and she studies at University of Chicago, and she's discussing her experience with us. For those of you that are interested in American universities and exploring your options to study in the United States, I would also like to refer you to our Education USA program. And one of my colleagues will be putting in the link to that Facebook page so you know where to find them. Our Education USA program has advisors that can share some thoughts about where in the United States you might find a program for you, what kinds of scholarships are available, what kind of specific majors and minors you could look into, and they can meet with you for free. This is a free service. They do also advising virtually through text message, email, or on an online meeting. So please make sure you contact our Education USA office if you are interested in learning more about studying in the US. We also have our exchange programs, which are completely paid for as scholarships. You can also look and research more on our website, us.usembassy.gov/education-culture. Back to our presentation with Melissa. We learned a lot about the University of Chicago, and really interesting to see your schedule, your day-to-day, Melissa, and how that has really made you like studying there. I wanted to see if there are any questions in the audience, but I do have some questions for you. Okay, so we have one. What is Chicago like in the winter? Is it very cold?
Okay. Yes, I would say that Chicago can be very cold in the winter, especially for people who are used to warm climates. I'm from Chicago, so I've gotten pretty much used to it. But Chicago can get very, very cold in the winter. But as long as you have your winter jacket and a scarf and some gloves, you'll be totally fine to survive a winter here in Chicago.
Great. I mean, I can say that Baku is probably as cold as Chicago, maybe with the wind. But you probably get more snow in Chicago. How many days of snow do you get per year?
We'll probably get like maybe a week and a half worth of snow, not like in one go, like throughout the year, but we do get a good amount of snow, and especially the states around us, we get a lot of snow. So, yeah, we see a lot of very white winters, which is very nice.
Great, sounds good. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, we have one. What is your favorite class, Melissa, that you have taken at the University of Chicago?
Sure. I think
Is it Italian?
No, it's not Italian actually.
Okay.
My favorite class that I've taken at the University of Chicago, I had this class last quarter, so during the winter. It was called Building a Nation. And so it was about Brazilian culture and history. And we just read so much interesting Brazilian literature and watched a lot of Brazilian films. And I learned all about Brazil's history. And it was one of my favorite classes. Like, I've gotten some of my favorite books and films from that class, and I would take it again probably if you gave me the chance. I would be happy to take it again. So that was probably one of my favorite classes that I've taken so far. And to supplement that class, they also offered a languages across curriculums course. So it was a Monday, Wednesday class, and then on Friday, for any student who was interested, we could kind of like get more of an in-depth understanding of kind of how Brazilian culture is being incorporated into the material we're learning. And so we would we would learn about the Brazilian context by understanding from a second professor we had within the course who was from Brazil. So it was a really good experience.
That's great. From my experience, I love American universities and colleges because it's not your typical classroom. You're not just sitting and getting lectured at by a professor. And as for example, in McAllister College where I studied, my favorite class was salsa dancing. I needed 1 credit to graduate, and an extra credit. So there was a 3-hour salsa dancing class every Monday in the evening. And you just showed up and you got a grade for showing up and learning how to salsa dance. So, I think learning about Brazilian culture and literature is also really, really cool. And I'm glad that you took that class. All right, so let's go to the next one. The dorms look cool. Do you have to share a room?
Yes, so students will be placed in kind of like, it's a lottery type of situation when you're first entering the university. You'll share information about yourself with the people who organize the dorms and kind of like where you'll be placed, so you can give information on kind of like your sleep preferences and kind of how you are as a person. And so during my first year, I was placed in a double with my roommate, and she's super cool. She's an international student and she has become my best friend here. And so going into the second year, you can choose to have a different type of dorm. So you could, if you had a single, maybe your first year, you could have a double if you wanted to share a room with your friend, or if you were in a double and you really wanted a single for your second year, you could do that too. But I had a really good experience with my roommate, and so I chose to have a double again with her. We're actually in the same exact room from last year, and it's really great. You learn a lot sharing a room with someone that you don't really know at first, but I think it's one of the most fundamental parts of coming to university here in the United States, and it's a great experience. I've loved it.
Yeah, I can also say that I'm still good friends with some of my college roommates, and it's really a fun environment to be there on campus. Great. What's the next question? Does the university have programs for students who don't speak English well? Well, I think you speak very good English. If you wrote that question, I think you have really, really good spelling. But Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, so I definitely think that the university expects students to have a pretty strong English speaking and writing level and a pretty strong English level entering into university. But I have seen that the university does have resources for students who are hoping to improve their English. We have a language center here at the university where students can offer tutoring sessions for students who are hoping to strengthen their English skills and any type of language skills here. The Language Center is a really good resource for students who may not speak English well, but I do think that the university expects you to have a strong English level.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is helpful. And those of you who want to improve your English language skills, we have a lot of great programs here in Azerbaijan for you to do that. So you can pass the IELTS or TOEFL exams that you might need to study in the United States. Please stay subscribe to our Virtual American Spaces page to learn more about these English programs. We also have some of these programs on our U.S. Embassy Facebook page. And that includes, for example, our teachers' English capacity building programming, online American English training, and free resources that you can study English. We also have conversation clubs that you can join. These are in person or virtual, so please do keep in close touch with our Facebook pages to learn more about them. All right, we have our last question. Why did you decide to go to the University of Chicago?
It's a very good question. So I was really interested in coming to the University of Chicago. One, because it's very close to home. I didn't really want to go out of state. So I was very happy to come to the University of Chicago. I'm only like 25 minutes, 30 from my house. So it's super, super easy to go home and see my family and my friends whenever I'd like to. But I was super interested in coming to the University of Chicago because of the way the university kind of molds its students. I was really interested in the core and being able to have a very strong interdisciplinary education that I know isn't always offered at all universities. I was really interested in taking a lot of specific courses that the university offered and being able to strengthen a lot of my skills that I knew the university would be able to help me do. Whether that was in clubs or working under specific professors or just going doing experience that's through the university, like a career check where I get to explore a different career option that I hadn't considered before and have the opportunity to do so. So yeah, I think that was one of my favorite parts about the university and why I chose to come here.
Excellent, excellent. So I had a question that I wanted to ask you about study abroad. Do you have any intention to study abroad? Maybe Azerbaijan is an option for you to come here and do a semester.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Azerbaijan. But so far, just because of a lot of students don't really have the opportunity to study abroad during their academic year because of the specific courses that they have to take that are being offered at a specific time during the year. So what I'm really hoping to do, because that's kind of my case, because I have 2 majors and a minor, so it's like I'm pretty filled up for the rest of the school year. And so I'm really interested in doing a September term, which is something that the university also offers. So it's kind of like a summer experience for students who can't do something during the school year. It's a couple weeks and it's right before school starts, and they have a lot of really great programs. I know they have one in Italy, and that's something I definitely want to do, especially because I study Italian, and I'd love to kind of get like a strong cultural experience with the language and get the opportunity to study abroad, because that's a very valuable experience that I think most students can agree.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's a great thing to look forward to. We're really happy to have had the chance to talk to you today, Melissa, our virtual embassy intern here, who just talked to us about how great University of Chicago is. Hey, if any of those numbers were intimidating to you about financial aid, the tuition cost, please talk to our Education USA advisors. They have a list of scholarships that they can share with you, and can help you apply for these scholarship opportunities to universities like University of Chicago to make sure that you can get there and study without worrying about the financial part of it. But Melissa, thank you for your insights. We really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the semester, and thank you for joining us. Happy Friday, happy weekend to everyone. Bye.
Thank you.